Hello. Today we're gonna talk about a very controversial topic. We're gonna talk about if death penalty should be legal or not, and why it should be applied in Mexico or not. Well, let's begin. Well, Daniela, I know you are on favor to don't legalize the death penalty, and I will tell you why it should be legal. First one. The first example that I have is Singapore. Singapore was one of the worst countries in the world in the topic of violence, drug traffic, and other crimes. In 1957, the president made a restructuration in the laws, and they applied the death penalty for people who had committed crimes like violation, corruption, money laundering, and drug possession for business. Since then, Singapore is in the top 10 countries with PIB per capita generating $100,000. Meanwhile, Mexico is very lagged, being in top 40, generating $8,092 per year per capita. The difference between those countries are very big, and those have a very similar characteristic, like borders with important economies like is China and the United States. Both have drug dealers and narco traffic, and the PIB was very similar and before Singapore applied these laws. And I think it should be very good if we apply this law in some crimes in Mexico.
Okay, in reference about what you said, I can tell that I'm not in favor because I know that every person deserves the right to live, but sometimes people do bad stuff and need to pay for what they did, and taking the right of liberty is one of the most painful ways that can affect a person's life. And according to the Article 22 of the Constitution of the United Mexican States, says that death penalty remains prohibited for political crimes and for other crimes. It may only be imposed for treason to the nation in a foreign war, for parricide, for homicide with treachery, premeditation or unfair advantage, for arson, abduction, highway robbery, piracy, or serious criminal offenses against military order. I think that if this is an article, we shouldn't kill people because every person have a right and needs to suffer for what they did.
Okay, I'm thinking that it's right that if you did something, you have to have the consequences. But if you don't know, in Mexico, the government spends 13,000 millions per year for to afford the jails and keep the persons there and afford wherever they want, wherever they need. So if we reduce the number of persons, the prisoners in jails, we can use the money in another areas like education, health, public construction, streets. And that's it. I think it could be like we should reduce the number of people that we have to maintain and use that money in other places. We should have jails, but some crimes should be penalized in a better way. For example, violation, drug possession for business, kidnapping, and corruption. Those should be penalized with death penalty. Why? Because you don't have to do it. It's not a necessity. You don't have to do this for life, right? Kidnapping is not a necessity. Drug dealer, drug business is not a necessity.
So I took the time to define what prison is, and it's a building in which people are legally held as a punishment for a crime they have committed or while waiting a trial. Which I can say that prison is there for some reason. In another situation, if you're applying the death penalty, you can kill innocent people. So how are you gonna know?
Yeah, for that, the death penalty should be applying with consistent proof that you are guilty of some crime, because how you said, if you apply the penalty to a lot of people, it will be like a license to kill. So that's why I propose those specific crimes, because how you said also, like, jails are there for some reason, and it can be for people like people who thief or make another type of crimes with lower grade of value, or like lower crimes.
Okay, so in that aspect, you're right, but in different cases in our society, there's a lot of discrimination with poor people, and that's why rich people think that killing a poor guy will help them reduce their expenses. Because we know that all the government is managed by rich people, which means that they can kill whoever they want, but obviously they're not gonna kill a person of their same social class.
Yeah, well, in that aspect, you're right, but that's why that penalty should be applied first in our government right now, because corruption is one of the biggest problems that we have in society and the government. So if we apply this penalty on people that is proof that have committed something, a crime in based on corruption, money laundering, we will make a restructuration in all our government. And with this restructuration, we will have a new start, and with this new start, people will know how to act. If you apply this in the government, in very high workers, people will understand that the law is applying for everyone. If it's applied in a government, in a president, why it can be applied on me? And I think this is why this law will help our society to lower our crime levels. If we make a restructuration, it has to be everyone, population, government, and that's, I think, is we are gonna change.
Okay, so to finalize this debate, I'm gonna say a conclusion. And we think that Mexico is not prepared to apply this law because it hasn't been a president that compromised to take the charge and implement the Constitution of the United Mexican States.
Yeah, and the corruption right now in Mexico is very big, and this is a very big problem. And we think that we are not prepared, and it's not the time to make this change happen.